So where does this money come from? It comes from two places. One is the central bank. In our case, the central bank in Australia is called the Reserve Bank of Australia. This is one source of money, where money is created. So the Reserve Bank of Australia can issue coins and notes. This is literally printing money at the mint. But it can also create electronic money. So it doesn't literally print anything, but it creates, it just says, there's money in an account now, and as long as you believe it, as long as everyone believes that, there is money in an account now. Right? You don't have to physically print it, the Reserve Bank just says it's there, and it is. So the Reserve Bank can do this by buying bonds from the government. The government issues a bond, which is a piece of paper, an IOU. A bond is an IOU piece of paper, and the government gives this piece of paper IOU to the Reserve Bank, and it says on it, this is worth $100 plus an extra 10 on top when you pay it back. So I'm going to give you this. So it's 110. Say it's a bond that says I owe you $110. The government just writes that, creates that piece of paper, gives it to the Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank gives to the government $110 or $110 billion, and deposits that money into the government's bank account, and then it exists. It creates out of nothing and deposits it, or just says $110 billion now exists in your account, thank you very much, and then there's $110 billion. So that's figuratively printing money. It's not literally printing any money, it's figuratively printing money. Another way of doing that is with the private sector. So the Reserve Bank can buy bonds from companies. A company can issue a bond, an IOU, and it sells that IOU to the Reserve Bank, and the Reserve Bank can give the company money. And this deposits that money into their bank accounts. This creates money as well. They could buy foreign currency from the private sector. So there's various institutions, usually you guys won't have foreign currency lying around which you could buy and sell, but there's institutions which might hold foreign currencies, and the Reserve Bank can purchase those foreign currencies from those private institutions, and in exchange it can create for them money instead, Australian dollars instead. Where does that money come from? It doesn't come from anywhere. The bank just says it exists, and then it exists. So this is another way of creating money. So this is one of our institutions which creates money. But the other one is that private financial institutions can also create money themselves. How? They lend to private borrowers, and this causes a credit creation process which generates new deposits out of quote-unquote thin air. And we'll see how that works in a sec. First, you said it's these financial institutions, or what are called financial intermediaries, that can create this money. The private sector creates money. So who are these guys? The institutions are banks, building societies, credit unions, merchant banks, finance companies, securitizers, insurance companies, superannuation funds, and other managed funds. These are all financial intermediaries. Their business is handling money. They don't do anything else. They just handle money. The main one that we're going to be interested in is the first one, the banks. And we're going to be interested in the banks for two reasons, because these are the main generators. These are the essential institution. All the others are kind of, let's not call them parasites, but let's say all of the others are kind of hangers-on around the central function of the financial system, which is banking. So banking, in essence, banking boils down to, its function is to bring together people who have money which they want to hold on to, that is money they don't want to spend. It brings together those people with people who don't have enough money but they want to spend. It brings together people who are saving money and people who want to borrow money. People who have excess money and people who have a shortage of money. The bank brings those two, it coordinates those two groups. So you don't have the savers trying to go around finding, or the people who want to borrow money don't have to kind of wander around trying to find someone who has excess money. A bank does this the bank's function is to do this. Also, the reason we're going to focus on banks is because, well, just because of the numbers. Here's the assets of banks compared to the rest of the guys. So banks, you can see all the others. Superannuation funds are a separate story. But you can see the banks have $2.964 trillion of assets. That's 2012, so they have a bit more than that now. But these guys are miles away the biggest players in the market. They also have the most central function in the market. That's why they're the biggest players. But also superannuation funds are massive now, about $1 trillion of assets. And that's because of government policy. If you went back 25 years, that would be zero. Or not zero, but nothing. You know, $1 billion maybe. What's $1 billion between friends? That's small change here. So, but that's because of now we have compulsory superannuation. Everyone's been paying into superannuation funds. So superannuation funds have been investing those funds and accumulating assets over time. So now it's about $1 trillion worth. So in total, the total assets of the banking system or the financial system is about $5 trillion, which means the financial system is a very, very powerful set or sector of the Australian economy. It's why governments, or not governments, why politicians listen to the banking sector. They're not small business, where you can kind of say, yeah, that's nice, and then you just go and do what you want to do. You have to pay attention to these guys because the amount of assets they have is larger than the GDP of the country by a multiple of 5. So it's a significant sector.